So we're jumping into a classic mech here, taking a look from the perspective of a mech warrior, the Archer. Now, out of the Inner Sphere mechs, I consider the Archer a workhorse. It's not fully dedicated to one role, although it does tend to kind of lean in that direction, but it pulls back a little bit based on some of the other configurations that it has and the weight class. And being a solid mech means Inner Sphere, yes, it has some drawbacks, mainly heat, and we're going to explore that. But what it brings to the table means if you're building a mixed unit lance, or you're looking just for a solid anchor point, something that is just going to perform, a linchpin, a backbone, the Archer is a fantastic, fantastic mech. So we start with the two long-range 20 packs. And in breaking down the long-range missiles, this has the dual threat, the double threat. First of all, it has redundancy. That's important in Battletech because behind the scenes, under the hood, the DNA is this constant scale of modifiers that move up and down. I'm trying to pull the modifiers down if I'm shooting, and you're trying to stack the modifiers up. So I miss. If you have two of the same weapon, and that might literally be the same weapon, or that might be the same range bracket, that gives you two chances to hit. If I'm in range with the LRM-20s, I've got potentially two shots. I say potentially because maybe I'm not going to shoot, or I can't shoot, or I have to watch heat. But just looking at the tech specs, I've got two shots. It has redundancy. Second to this, the spread of the LRM-20s is important. We go 20, 15, 10, 5. 20 means if I'm average on the table, I'm going to be hitting you with some bite. And again, those are two packs. If I can bring those modifiers down, those are two 20 packs screaming at you. If I roll legendary, that's huge. For me, on a side note, LRM 10s, or I prefer 15s and 20s. 10s still have a little bit of bite, but their target preference is really mediums and lights. And once we move down to LRM 5s, I'm not discounting them. I mean, I love playing the Thorn light mech with a 5-pack, or you look at the Grasshopper. They're really for softening up or skirmish or harassment or going against vehicles. So they do have their place. But we're looking at two 20-packs. So that's the primary thrust. Now, on the way in, you've got missiles shooting out. You could do the indirect thing. So even if you don't have a dedicated indirect fire configuration, lance, build, vehicles, you're trying to save battle value, it's a smaller mission, tactically that opens it up. You've got great stuff going in to soften up the opponent. You could do the indirect. You've got the 20-pack. You've got the redundancy. It's something. Now we move to the medium lasers, and I pushed up to the archive. We were looking at different Inner Sphere weapon configurations. Medium laser is the best, I was going to say the best bang for the buck, but I guess it should be best like flashlight or best light up or best sizzle for the buck in terms of weight, the battle value to purchase it, range, heat, damage. It's just kind of has the best specs across the board. You have multiple medium lasers on the Archer. What this means, normally, if we look at something like the longbow, just for contrast, longbow, you want to rush. These mechs that have the LRM-20s, you want to rush them and get close to get under the minimum. They're still going to shoot you. I'm still going to shoot you. But now, before I even crunch the numbers, I'm going to need, 10s, 11s, 12s? So your pocket of less vulnerability is being able to push in to get close. Well, Archer's got now the medium lasers to blast you with. So while it goes from primarily a super long range and a shorter range, it's got some bite at that short range. It's got hands. It's got hands. If you've been following my channel, you know it's coming. You have the ability and the tonnage to punch and punch. Now, let's kind of look at the tonnage for a second. That's important. I punch with all mechs. I'm running up there with my Stinger, and I'm punching you because that is a 1 in 6, but this is where the weight's different. It's a 1 in 6 chance to hit you in the head. If I hit you in the head, I'll do some damage. I'm certainly not going to knock your head off with a Stinger, but I'm going to force a consciousness check. I'm going to force some roll. Hey, in Battletech, anytime you roll dice, you never know. It could happen. Look, I need 12s to hit you with my autocannon 20. Do you want me to take the roll or not? You're like, no, don't take the shot, right? Because you never know. But that's a 1 in 6 chance that it cuts down for a headshot and then for a pilot consciousness check. And if you're playing in a campaign, that strike goes against them potentially permanently, although in a role-playing game or campaign, there are some ways to undo that. That's big. The Archer has that just by its nature being a mech with hands, but it gets escalated because you've got some tonnage behind it. If it takes 1 or 2 headshots, you could knock a head off. You're dealing damage that even if you miss, that's armor, left side, right side that might be weakened, that might move to internals. I mean, it's got some bite. So just a solid workhorse. All right, the on the other side of the sheet, kind of the things to be aware of. Well, heat. You got to manage heat. You're not going to be sitting there firing off missiles and lasers every single turn. And you have to be mindful of the heat that you have ammunition inside. But there's a lot of other mechs in the Inner Sphere Succession era that you have to worry about this. That's a skill that you will cultivate. You will learn when to push the heat or not. I tend to run a little hot. I tend to push the heat perhaps tactically too much. And there are Battletech players out there that believe just never generate heat. And I both ways are correct. You have to kind of find your play style. Heat is a challenge with the mech. The other challenge, not so much ammo, in that you're going to run out of ammo. I mean, you could. There are some games that I've run out of ammo. I've gone dry, but very, very rare in terms of actually playing. The big thing is ammo explosions. And on heavy mechs, like the Archer, assault class mechs, ammo explosions can be big because often as you take damage across the mech, it will punch through to one area where the ammo is. And there could be circumstances where left torso, you're damaged. Into internals, there's ammo in there, but the rest of your mech, it's beat up, but not really that bad. And in this case, if it was an energy mech or there isn't not ammunition located there, you're fine. You're still in the game. You're like, I'm good for another 5, 8, 10 turns. Now, once it goes to internals, the Archer, I won't say withdraw, but it's got to be very, very careful or have some other lance mates cover for it. It is a liability. But I would say, Archer's a fantastic mech. Again, just a solid anchor mech, a lot to offer a lance, and you could build a lot around its configurations.